so many people in this country that actually they don't know it, but they actually believe it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where they believe that God's one and this kind of thing. And if the Muslim community was to actually openly tell people this and make them question these things, there'd be so many people accepting Islam.
Absolutely.
Because of how difficult our time was praying, because obviously our parents didn't know for quite some time, was praying in secret. So I got talking. That's how it did it. I got talking with Muslims at the college, and it got to a point where my heart got softened to Islam, and it went from being a religion that makes sense to like me wanting to become Muslim. We was in this premiering, and you showed me a video.
Al-Rahman.
Yeah, Surah Rahman, and I remember watching it, just numb, feeling like, wow, this is obviously the power of it and stuff, you know. And I remember going into the bathroom and looking in the mirror and thinking, you know, that it's mad. Like, what am I doing, you know?
Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Welcome to another episode of ReRooted Raw. Today I'm joined by two very special guests. We don't have a third man behind the camera because we have two amazing guests today. We have Alex and Ellis. Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum salam. How are you brothers doing?
Alhamdulillah. Good.
Mashallah. Nice to see you guys.
Good to see you. Yeah, good to see you as well.
Mashallah. Because you know, earlier today when Mohsin, obviously, you know, someone else, Ben normally does this, and he couldn't make it because of the weather. And he was telling me you got two brothers, you know, twins. I was expecting you guys to be maybe in your 30s, 40s, you know. And when I came in, I was like, mashallah, you know, you guys in your 20s, you know, you're really young brothers, mashallah. So start off by telling me how it happened. What was your backgrounds?
Well, I mean, I was brought up in a Christian background, like a Catholic background.
What's like practicing?
Not practicing, no. It was more like a sort of, my mum was Protestant, my dad's Catholic, and it's sort of like, the reason we was Catholic is to get into the school we was supposed to get into. So we wasn't practicing or anything, but the schools sort of semi-were, if that makes sense. They were sort of. But we went through that a little bit. You know, the primary school was like, you know, you went through the confirmation and things and all that stuff. But other than that, that was it. You know, obviously you have like grandparents who were practicing a little bit, but other than that, no. But
it was basically just a normal kind of what a lot of people in this country are, where it's you don't really think about it. Do you get me?
Yeah.
So you might go to school, you might sit through RE, but it was kind of it was a time to just either do other things and mess about and stuff like that.
Just another lesson.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So you never really got a grounding in it, and you never really understood kind of what Christianity actually was, and the actual doctrine behind it and stuff like that. You never really understood that.
Did you ever, at some point, like as you were growing up, obviously going to a sort of semi-religious institution, ever sort of think about these things, question these things, discuss these things?
A little bit, but it was sort of
subconsciously.
Yeah, it was a little bit. The problem was, you see, with our school, it was almost cool to not like God. So everybody in the school would go into RE and just almost slag the teacher off for being an RE teacher, if that makes sense.
My God, yeah.
And that was the problem with it, really. So did we think about it? I thought about it probably a little bit, maybe like year 9, year 8, you know, that sort of age. You'd be thinking like, why am I sat in RE, if that makes sense in the first place. But other than that, not really. No, not until later on, definitely not.
So you grew up in Manchester?
Blackburn. We grew up in Blackburn.
Okay.
Yeah, we're living there now for uni.
Yeah.
Okay.
But obviously it's a very diverse town, so it's you kind of you're brought. I always say, like, I say, you're either in Blackburn, it's either you're Muslim or you don't like Muslims. It's like one way or the other. Do you get me?
Yeah.
I think there was a documentary by the BBC about how kind of it's almost everyone's against each other kind of thing. So growing up, it was kind of, we was at the other end of the scale. We was in an area, Blackburn, really, which is kind of known for not liking Muslims. Well, at least our school were anyway. And so really, we got brought up with a lot of misconceptions about it, you know. And I mean,
probably religion in general as well, to be honest.
Yeah, I said so. Yeah,
but particularly like Islam. Yeah, definitely get that.
And what sort of common things would you sort of hear, like
about Islam?
Yeah.
Oh God, where do we even start with that? I'd say the big ones sort of, they think Allah's like a completely different being.
Yeah, you almost relate it more to Hinduism, actually.
Yeah.
Just purely because it was just in our area, the Muslims out there, usually like from the subcontinent or whatever.
Yeah.
So you kind of related it a little bit. And I never really thought it was so similar to Christianity and these kind of things at all, you know. And then obviously you got your natural misconceptions, you know, like obviously I remember thinking around, like, you know, when some of the attacks were happening and stuff like that. That's when we was in school. So naturally,
Muslims
it's
get
almost like,
blamed,
oh, there's going to be a revolution in this country, or this, like Tommy Robinson's having a, stuff,
course,
all that lot. And so we kind of side with some of them views. You get me?
Yeah.
Which is mad to think back now, where we are now compared to where we were. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because it's really interesting knowing about, like, seeing you guys today, and I'm thinking, how did it happen? We're going to get to that, obviously. But so you didn't have any Muslim friends growing up?
None at all.
No, not even. No.
Well, maybe like a couple on our street.
Yeah, the odd one on our street. But
so you'd know
we
that
didn't see him that much. But
but we had see, our school was like, it was so a lot of the Christian schools in England, there's a lot of Muslims still going to them, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Our school was not like that at all. So the first Muslim that went was actually the guy we knew. We knew a guy from our street who was Muslim.
Yeah.
He went there, but he was like probably the first one, student-wise, to even be at the school. And pretty much everyone in the school didn't really like Muslims. So it's just a very much like everyone's a Christian.
Right.
They don't really care about the religion, but they're all from that background.
Yeah.
So no, not really like Muslim friends growing up at all, really. Yeah.
So what age did you move to Manchester then? That was like
well, it'd be like 18, wouldn't it, really, for uni?
Yeah.
Well, in fact, no. First year was commuting from Blackburn.
Yeah.
And then in our second year, then we went and moved over to Manchester.
Yeah.
okay. And so I mean, that's most of your teenage life was in Blackburn.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And during obviously teenagers, like, obviously teenagers do what teenagers do. But was there any sort of period, like, teenagers also question, like, what am I going to do in my life? What's it all about? Did you ever have those type of questions?
Well, the key thing for me personally was I used to be into gaming quite a bit. So I'd play this game called Gary's Mod, and I met a guy on there from QA.
Yeah.
And so we'd usually get talking. We're into similar things, so we'd play FIFA and stuff, which is obviously football. So I met him, and obviously my mindset then was almost, Islamophobic, really.
Yep.
So I'd go at him with these kind of racist kind of things, but luckily, alhamdulillah, he was thick-skinned.
Yeah.
A lot of people just think I'm not talking to that guy,
Yeah.
I think most people over here would think that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So then what happened there from is he'd almost say a few little digs back, just to wind each other up, and then we'd have these, like, say, hours of conversations, really, wouldn't we? Yeah. We'd palm it off because we weren't practicing Christianity and say, like, oh, we don't know too much about that, we didn't even know what the Trinity was, really.
Yeah.
In terms of, like, Jesus being God and everything, I didn't believe that anyway.
Yeah.
So he'd throw these things, and then we'd be Googling, seeing what we could find,
Just to get back the next time.
Yeah, definitely. So it planted a seed, but obviously, as time's going on, your life is going on and all. You've got like exams, and then A levels in particular, where I kind of was in the middle then of, like, okay, we've had a lot of these conversations. Particularly for me, it was like the Signs of the Day of Judgment got me because it's testable almost. You can almost, it's almost like a step-by-step process, and that's definitely what was like. In fact, relating to, like, these kind of prophecies and things, I actually threw a ISIS kind of thing at him. Yeah. And he responded saying, like, well, Islam, there's like a prediction basically. I forgot what it were. Saying that, about I think it's like waving these black flags and things like that. Basically, it's predicting it, and I was like, okay, well, that's a bit mad. It's almost I've thrown a racist comment, and it just spun it back round, and then said, well, it's kind of an evidence. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that was the first thing for me as well. Initially, I mean, obviously in person friends, we never had any Muslims but he was like the only Muslim guy we knew at all.
Yeah.
So it was sort of anything about Islam, it just get dumped on him. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So
and I guess it was a comfortable environment because it's online.
Yeah,
in front of the person.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So that was like the initial seed for both of us. That was when we was going sort of together upwards, like, if that makes sense.
So
like,
you were
growing upwards.
16, 17 or younger?
When we in from, like, what, 2015?
Yeah, so
we'd be like 15, something
15
like that.
Or something like that. And like, what, you obviously grew up in you went to Christian school, grew up in a Christian family. What were your personal beliefs? Were they the same between you both, or did you guys have different views in regards to God and religion? Or obviously religion,
I think a lot of it we didn't really think about.
Yeah.
But in terms of what I personally thought, and it's almost weird where you think, like, the actual RE teaching, these kind of things that a teacher in school, they'd kind of not almost explain it too good, really, because I'm thinking Jesus wasn't God the entire time, even though I'm sat in RE and all this stuff. And then when he was kind of saying these things to us, like, kind of trying to prove Christianity wrong, basically, we'd kind of like say, "Oh, I don't know," but in reality, I'm thinking, "Wait, what? What is it? What is this all about?" You know.
I remember that in particular when he said about the Trinity. So I was literally going on Wikipedia, looking it all up. Like, what is this Trinity thing? You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, like...
But you guys were inquisitive. Like, you know, most teenagers are like, whatever. Okay, done the lesson. I'm not interested. But you guys seem to be searching these things up as well quite a bit.
I'd say so. Well, see, the thing was in school with me, because, like, I was, like, got into a science background and things and, like, enjoyed science. Yeah, science teacher's just not religious.
Yeah, that's another element that's going to be added to
so
things, isn't it?
that also made you think, well, I'm into the science side of it, you know, so... And you listen to your science teacher at that time and think, oh, you know, yeah, this is true, this. So for me, it was like you go through that phase in school where it's cool to not like God. Everyone's done it, right, in our school. So like you went through that phase. Then I went on to sort of agnosticism, if that makes sense. So like I was like, I don't know, but I don't care, if that makes sense. And I think that's most people are on that page, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where I was. And I never really thought about it until like we're on about that guy planting the seeds for us. That's when I started initially thinking like, yeah, it's something might be, you know, it might be a good conversation to have and a good thought process. But I thought, well, I'm not going to do anything about it. I'm too young and all these, you know, different things.
Stuff we tell ourselves, isn't it? Like,
Oh yeah, exactly.
But so you both were the same in regards to this. Like you first were like, you didn't like the idea of God, or you didn't like God, but it's not that you didn't believe in him, but then you slowly moved on to an agnostic type position.
I wouldn't say we didn't like God. It was more that we just didn't care about anything to do with.
It wasn't
God,
relevant
religion.
to you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'd say that.
It was a lot of people. In fact, I'd say pretty much everyone really from our background thinks it's basically good people go to heaven, bad people go to hell, and that's it. That's the only distinction they have, you know.
Yeah.
And we were exactly the same in it. So it's basically like if you don't kill anyone, you're right, you know.
Yeah.
It was a bit like that. So that naturally is going to bring on a thing where I don't care because you know if the boundary's not doing something drastic, then you're right, you know. So yeah, it was more that we just didn't care. But yeah, we didn't really look into it until meeting him, did we? No.
So you guys eventually moved to Manchester. You know, you went.
Well, that's after like the majority of the story, really, because I knew Islam was true before I went to university at all. So I was actually in college at the time. So
is this just based on the conversations with this guy online?
No, see, this is where we split. So we was like going together.
That's what I want to get to. It's like, was it always a lot? The journey was the same, or did you guys have your own sort of?
So mine went on pause at this point. So because my A levels were coming round, my head goes from anything there, and then I tried to get into this. So my journey pauses. I'm still talking to this guy regularly because still talk to him now.
Yeah.
Where you know we'd have these conversations maybe, but obviously like anything in my head, which I were kind of in the middle at that point, was just paused. But then obviously you.
So with me, I was being a little bit more like inquisitive, if that makes sense. So I took computer science as an A level, and I took biology and chemistry. So in my computer science class, I met. Well, the person sat next to me was an alima, so she was like, you know, pretty well off on what she knew.
Yeah.
So I just sort of talked to her about Islam from what I've learned from the guy in the Q8, the guy online. So I'd speak to her about it, and she'd be like surprised on how much I knew about the religion, if that makes sense. Because at that stage, I went from being someone who doesn't like Islam to going to college, and for the record, my college was full of Muslims. So it went from the school we've just been talking about, where everybody's white Christian, maybe like a few like mixed race people, even that's all you got. It was just white usually, completely.
Yeah.
To the college, like I said, our town's diverse, so we went to our college was in the Muslim area. Now, what our college did was when they did, you know, the open evenings for the college where they show you around, they'd say, okay, our school, so all the Catholic schools and the Christian schools, they'd say, right, you guys, they'd pick all the white people to be the volunteers on that night.
Right.
So you'd go into the college we went to, and all the volunteers are like white Christian people,
right,
showing you around, and you know, and then they go, right, okay, let's say tomorrow night is the Muslim schools are coming. So everybody in the school's Muslim.
Why would they do that? Because I mean, you guys are going to be going into an environment.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I'm saying. So I thought I was going to a college that was going to be white Christian completely, because the college and the school were quite linked. So we went to the college for the first day. Me, you, and a couple of other mates from that school, which were the only ones who went, and everyone's Muslim.
Wow.
SubhanAllah,
That must have been a shock.
It was. Like,
Yeah,
as soon as we walked in, I remember saying to my mate, I was like, because imagine the background we've come from.
You guys probably felt like you got done in, like, I mean,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
led into this, and it's
Yeah,
quite
yeah,
naughty in a
exactly,
way
yeah.
as well, isn't it? Just
Yeah,
to get
yeah,
you to
yeah.
sign up to a college and
Exactly.
it was pretty mad. So at that time, I was thinking, well, you know, I was in the mindset of that spot where I didn't mind Islam, sort of, like I was in the middle a little bit, like as in even liking the religion, but I was a bit like, well, I had those sort of things that Tommy Robinson tells you still in the back of my mind, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So like, you know, my opinions were a bit not that great, basically, on the people at the college at that time, because I didn't know anyone as well, you know, and so I got talking. That's how it did it. I got talking with Muslims at the college, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I was in the computer science class talking to this alima and just mentioning about Islam a little bit, and I think at that stage she was answering things back, and it wasn't a debate, it was more just me asking questions or us even just agreeing on concepts and things.
Yeah.
And it got to a point where my heart got softened to Islam and the people, and thought, this Tommy Robinson blog and all these people who've been feeding me for the past, you know, 17, 18 years at that time, talking rubbish, you know what I mean? And people, I got to the point where thinking, people need to start talking more, you know.
Yeah.
Our town's literally in two.
Yeah,
you know, the white people don't talk to the Asian people, and it's more culturally, isn't it?
Yeah,
and the Asian people don't talk to the white people. That's just what it's like.
That's a big problem as well.
It's a
you
huge
guys
problem.
Say. Like, it's massive, man.
Massive problem.
And people are capitalizing on this, like this division, right? But
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
only people start talking to each other,
Yeah.
and it started to clarify so many things.
Yeah,
man.
exactly,
It does,
Yeah, that's the biggest thing, the biggest problem in our town, really,
Yeah.
with that.
And to be honest, it's in most places.
Yeah.
You know, not only in the UK, in most places in the world, it's the same. Communities, like, they sort of huddle together, and they just completely close themselves off from everyone.
Yeah.
You know, and it doesn't help anyone. You know?
Yeah. Oh, it's a shame because in reality, the people from our background, from our childhood, probably think the same as what I thought, where, you know, Jesus isn't God, all this stuff. I remember being at a Dawah stand once in Manchester, and we were talking to, I think, a girl from Blackburn come past, didn't she? And she was even shocked. And it's like, there's so many people in this country that actually, they don't know it, but they actually believe it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where they believe that God's one and this kind of thing. And if the Muslim community was to actually openly tell people this and make them question these things, there'd be so many people accepting Islam.
Absolutely, and it's a less. I mean, I guess it's a take-home point for Muslims as well, born Muslims, is that, I mean, if you look at even early Islam, you know, the Prophet ﷺ, he didn't restrict himself to a particular community.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, obviously the dawah was gradual, but as it started to grow, I mean, the message was for everyone.
Yeah,
You know, it wasn't just for, and this is another misconception people have, which is, oh, this Islam thing is only for maybe the Arabs or for the Pakistanis or the
exactly.
Indians.
That was the whole motto of the town, pretty much.
And that's simply not true. You know, it's a universal message for all of humanity. You know, all of the children of Adam. You know, no matter what background you come from, what color you are, and you know, it's and that's another powerful thing about Islam. It removes these issues, social issues like racism, and all of these types of things. But that's amazing. So you beautiful thing was that you started interacting. You didn't close yourself off. You actually just made the most of it.
Yeah. So it took a while for me to sort of settle into the environment.
Yeah.
You know. But it was sort of near I think it would have been second year. So I went through the first year just sort of going home.
Yeah.
But the second year I thought, you know, we got sort of a common interest because they'd talk behind, like, her and the teacher would talk about Islam. So I had my ear open the whole time. I used to go home to this guy online and ask him questions. Oh, what's this? So I started speaking to her about it. She'd answer some questions, and it sort of went from a, like, pie in the sky religion thing to, like, actually a real tangible thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So then A-levels came around.
Yeah.
So we sort of stopped speaking anyway because I was focusing on other subjects as well and just in general.
Yeah.
And then, subhanAllah, in my biology class, it turns out there was an alim I sat two places
SubhanAllah.
next
So
to
there's
me.
another sister.
Completely, different sister. And she was the one who sort of propelled it like immensely, if that makes sense. It went from being a religion that makes sense to, like, me wanting to become a Muslim.
Yeah.
So same again, it'd be me asking questions, but it was more like actual, like, in-depth questions on, like, theology, you know. So I'd talk to her about the Trinity, and then she'd talk to me about why it's not true. And I'd be like, at that stage, I didn't really believe it. But like I said before, I was looking on Wikipedia about the Trinity, wasn't I? Now, at that stage, I was reading it, not even believing a word it said, if I'm honest.
Mm-hmm.
But thinking, well, I'm Catholic, so I believe that, and just subscribing to it straight away without actually thinking about it. So I'd talked about these ideas, like I believe it, but I never really did, if that makes sense. So when she was sort of, firing back with proper information, I'd sort of be scrambling around a little bit because I'm like, I don't even believe it anyway, but I have to defend my point, otherwise, what's next? Do you get me? Yeah. So, at that stage, I was probably like a practicing, not I want to say practicing Christian. It's hard to say you're a practicing Christian because it's like, what is a practicing Christian? But at that stage, which is slightly forgot a few things before then, is like as I was building that like thing with the first person who was answering the questions, it got to a point where I was a bit like, okay, one of them's right. So Islam and Christianity, right? Did I think that properly? Maybe it was more of a subconscious thing. So people would talk about it in my biology class, just random people, and I'd think like, crap, like one of us are actually, I'd sit there going, one of us are going to hell. Do you get me? Yeah. That's how I used to think at that time. I thought either it's me or it's all of this in this class. Do you get me?
Yeah. So at that stage you were Christian, practicing to what degree?
I was more practicing because I thought, well, at that stage I believed in God, so I thought, well, it's better being a practicing Christian than just nothing.
What led you to the belief in God?
More just the conversations and things. Okay. Like I said, I was sort of agnostic, but I needed a bit of a push somewhere, if that makes sense. Yeah. So I got that little push, and then I sort of got to the point where I was just fearing one of the religions, if that makes sense, thinking like, okay, Islam or Christianity.
And was it clear to you, like, was it made clear to you at some point during that journey that Islam was an option for people, and it's not just a religion for a certain group of people?
That was probably right at the start, really. Right. I think that was more things going through high school. Mm-hmm. It was sort of having that, misconception. Right. Yeah. But as soon as we were in college, I was well aware that you could become a Muslim. So that was not an issue. But it was more like, do I actually want to become a Muslim? Yeah. Yeah. So this second alim I was speaking to, like I said, we were talking more actual theology and about Christianity and what I believed in, compared to what she believed in. And then I was realizing like I knew that one was making a lot more sense, right? And you mentioned before about the Science of Day Judgment was on about that exactly. At that time.
So you were obviously having your engagements with Muslims that actually knew what Islam was and were able to communicate that to you. Were you in the same classes, or were you doing different subjects?
No, we was in chemistry together, weren't we? But sat in different areas. So I didn't really know these people that he was talking to anyway, really. Obviously, it's a small college, so you kind of...
You know faces.
Yeah, you knew faces. And obviously I was becoming like friends with a few Muslims and stuff like that, obviously. And it kind of... Once you get talking to Muslims, you kind of realise how like almost normal they actually are. Considering thinking back to what I used to think, where it was so separated. So obviously, your common interests like football and stuff like that. That was something to talk about. Do you get me? So you become mates with them, and it almost opened the door a little bit to like almost I don't say inclusivity and stuff, but you know what I'm saying. Like it's more integrated. So
you're both like doing your own classes, but at the same time you're both having your experiences with Muslims. Now was it obviously you were really inquiring into this much more, and you were busy probably with exams and whatever else was going on, but were you sort of transferring information over to Ellis?
Not at all, not even a word, not a single not a single
but were you at the same level as him as far as your inquiry, or like?
No, definitely not.
So
you're because the only thing I had at that point was then talking to my mate online, really. So I was basically on pause anyway with that, because either exams or just not thinking about it as much anyway, just in general.
Right.
And because I didn't really meet the people in college who kind of talked about Islam anyway, it didn't really become a subject,
right. So how did it then proceed from this point? Like,
well,
you're getting very close. You're on a break.
I stayed then until after my A levels.
Right. Yeah. So subhanallah. So at that stage, after I was speaking to the other person about theology, it got to the point where I was like, okay, like I'm gonna have to take one or the other now at this stage. So basically on the way home, I prayed for this sign. I thought anything, just something to like, at least point one way, even if nothing that significant, but just something. Do you get me? So I got home that day, And the sister who I was talking to sent this thing on Instagram, and it was like, obviously, because I'm very science minded.
Yeah.
So we was talking about, you know, like the sun rising from like the east and all this stuff. So it was like a post saying like NASA's confirmed at some time, like such and such. You know, obviously they put numbers on it, don't they?
Yeah.
Like the sun will rise from the other side, and I was like, that's a bit weird. Like I was just on about this 6 hours ago.
Yeah.
And you know, to me at that stage, I was like, okay, this is a little bit like everything was being too much of a coincidence now.
Mm-hmm.
Do you get me? And that really was the point where it hit me, and I was like, oh, this is it. Like I can tell.
Yeah.
And at that stage, I was like, even just when I was revising, because this is like a week before my A-levels, 2 weeks before my A-levels.
Right.
So I'm like, sort of thinking, oh no, do you get me? Like, this is like
Wrong timing.
Yeah.
My A-levels are coming up now.
That as well, but also just like, what am I going to do in general now? Like, we live completely different to Muslims at that time, you know? So it hit me like a ton of bricks, really. I was just staring out my window for like a while and just like thinking, oh no, this, like, what am I going to do?
Where was Alice at this point? Like
downstairs revising, literally just,
exactly.
It was like, not at that stage yet. No. So then, you know, time went on, I started almost practicing the religion, sort of, listening to Quran and all this stuff by then, even. Then it got to the point after the A-levels where I thought, well, I need to start telling people, like, you know. Now, we've always been close anyway, haven't we?
Yeah, we have. Yeah.
So I thought I need to start with him. So I messaged our mate online, telling him. Now, he never believed a word I said, because we just joke. We just like, I'd say, oh, this, and he'd go, yeah, of course. And we'd just...
Yeah, we would basically play a massive story out and then right at the end just say, yeah, joking. You know?
That's what we did.
The entire thing was just the best way to wind each other up, you know?
Yeah. So I'd said it. Now, I purposely did it on, you know, like Snapchat, because it goes, done it straight away. It's like, you know, deleted messages, so you could easy to sort of get rid of it. Because he'd be the sort of guy who'd just take a screenshot and send it. Do you get me?
Else.
So I told him, he thought I'm like, he just said, no, you're not. He was just laughing at, like, completely laughing at it, because he just thought it wasn't true.
It's a good one, yeah. It's been
yeah, exactly. So I'm not even starting to fall for that one. So then I was like, you know, I convinced him, finally won him over, and I thought, right, we need to plan how we're going to tell Ellis. Because at that time, I never knew.
He thought I was still against Islam, really.
Yeah.
So he was scared of telling me in case I have a massive reaction to it, you know.
Yeah.
Who's older, by the way?
Me, 1 minute.
1 minute older.
Yeah,
okay.
1 minute older, yeah. Yeah,
right.
So I thought I need to tell him now and see how he's going to, you know, take it. So we purposely, like, orientated the conversation we were having, like me, because we all went online that night.
Yeah.
So he'd like say, I forgot what he said. It was something like, "Oh, Alex, have you told Ellis about that thing yet?" Or something like something like just to make it easy, so I could
transition.
But what it were, it was that me and my mate were playing Foot Manager, yeah. And so we finished playing that. So I'm ready for going off now because it was getting late as well.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, you know, seeing a bit and stuff, and then he comes on, and this is that now him about to tell me, you know. So then he comes on, like he's talking about like TeamSpeak or something, but obviously he's literally sat next to me. But it's just
something you're probably in the same room.
Exactly.
Online
but just
friends,
because he's in QA, we have to go over like TeamSpeak or whatever. So then you say you want to have a conversation, you know, some deep conversation, and obviously in hindsight, I'm looking back, and there was something that really didn't want me to have that conversation that night. And I remember saying to you that I don't want to have the conversation. I can't be bothered. You know what I'm saying? And I remember. Now I feel it's just like it's Shaitan's last attempt almost to not have this conversation because he knew what was coming, you know. The next step from there was to almost believe it was true myself. Do you get me? So then you're scrambling trying to tell me.
So I dropped the bombshell, sort of saying like this. I worded like this Islam thing, you know. It's quite tangible. It's quite, you know. I think I'm starting to lean towards it, and then say like, well, our friend is mentioning is sort of backing me up, obviously, because he's Muslim anyway, but sort of just helping me through the conversation. So then it gets to the point where I'm thinking, I'm ready for a reaction, like, what your family going to say? Like, what's the, you know, we can't eat.
From Alice, right?
From Ellis, yeah. Thinking, like, how's everyone going to react? You're going to change so much. What's next? And, you know, all these mad things. So I'll leave this bit to you.
So then after that, he's telling me all that. I think you said you gave a few little evidences here and there.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
And then I was just like, weirdly, looking back, it's strange how it happened, but everything just clicked for me then at that point.
In that conversation.
That conversation, yeah. So as he's telling me, everything just fell into place for what I was thinking, because obviously A-levels were done then, so I had nothing on my mind really, and it all just clicked. And then I kind of just said, yes, I'm thinking something similar, you know, because obviously before my A levels, obviously, you know, you got your exams and that, so you kind of, I say praying almost, and it was almost like, instead of thinking a Christian kind of idea, it's like, well, whatever's out there, like whichever way it is, you know, just help me do well in my exams or whatever, you know what I'm saying? So then you finally tell me, I say same, and then I realise the consequences of that, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So obviously I'm about to start uni. Obviously uni for a non-Muslim is literally just parties and, you know, all that stuff. And I was ready for it. I was buzzing because, you know, Blackburn's not really great for nightlife or anything. I'm about to go to Manchester. So, you know, that completely just, it messed my head completely for months, you know.
Wow.
I remember just staring, like you were on about, you stared out your window, exactly the same. I remember the day after, because obviously there was a late conversation. Yeah. The day after, Sky Sports News is on, and I was just staring at it like, what's just happened? So
Alex had a little while to sort of figure out. It was almost like immediate for you.
Oh,
you had to just
all at once. Exactly, because it came out of nowhere for me. Really, it was strange how it happened.
Yeah. You know what's interesting? Sorry, because you two, obviously you're twins. Yeah. But you seem very independent as well in your ideas and thoughts, right? In your preferences in some regards, like your subjects you're studying. So it's really interesting that you both, it's not like you became Muslim because he was inclined towards it. It's like you were having your own sort of thoughts about it. And you were thinking things through over the years as well. It's amazing the way Allah guides, man. And how it happened. Like, you know, you went into the school and you had these interactions and you had your friend online. Okay, so you guys are, you know, you've had that conversation. What was it, immediate then? Or did you guys, a couple of weeks, months went by before you actually took that step?
Well, for me anyway, at that stage, that would have been August. Would it be August or late July?
It was late June, actually.
Late June, right, yeah. Yeah, so it was late June, yeah, it was. So at that stage, I knew I wanted to be a Muslim since April. Like Ramadan 2019 was like the time. It was Ramadan, by the way, whilst I was having these conversations. Right. But yeah, so that sort of, you know, shaitan's not about as much, you know. Your mind ponders more. You're seeing Muslims all around you, not eating. And I remember myself having chewing gum, feeling guilty. Right. This is where I didn't even know I wanted to be a Muslim. I'm like thinking that I'm doing something wrong. So like subconsciously it was there. But yeah, by the time, you know, I told Ellis, it was sort of, I couldn't talk to him about it from then on.
Oh, because I completely shut off then. Because
from him or just
from Islam, really. Because my head just frazzled completely. Then I knew that I had to change everything. Everything I was excited for with uni was like gone, really, you know. So, and to change so much, like from my background as well, it's very much like the football culture that we're into, you know, like we go United a lot and stuff. You know, you was in like pub before game and stuff, and it was like we was always at the front as well, like with atmosphere and stuff. So to go from that, which is massive in my life, I always think of it like, as well, with football's almost like a religion in itself, really. Like the way that like the fans are towards the team, even at Old Trafford. You know, you got banners such as like Manchester is my Everton. Like I think there's actually something to mention religion in
there is,
and it's like the way it is. Your life revolved around football anyway. Yeah. You know, like if you're getting a job or whatever, it was to pay for like away trips or whatever, you know. And to almost go from that culture, which is a complete opposite to Islam, you know, if you think of people like Tommy Robinson and stuff like that, they're known for their football roots and stuff like that. It was almost everything in that one moment collapsed, you know. So yeah, my head went completely. It was even a few months when it went by.
So how did you deal with that? What did you do yourself? Like, okay, you know, you've got these two opposing, in many ways, not in all ways, opposing worldviews. One is what you're used to and the way you're living, and the other is something you know is true, but at the same time you haven't experienced and you know it's gonna be a big change. How did you manage those two? Did you speak to someone? Did you just deal with it yourself?
I didn't even really deal with it at all, to be honest. It was that much of a, I don't want to face this because I know what's coming. I knew it was basically a can of worms that once it's open, it's done, you know. And I knew in the future that I wanted to become a Muslim and you know, be practicing, like, you know, but I didn't know when that would be. So my plan were finish uni, do my party days or whatever, and then once I finish uni, I can get into it, you know. so I shut off completely. You know, we went on holiday and stuff, and I remember being on holiday. I think, you know, it was months and months went by, and then this guy is in the background because he's ready to just get going with it.
Yeah.
Basically doing little plans with the guy I'm speaking to online.
Yeah.
Because he's really even then the only Muslim that I really talk to at all anyway, really. Because obviously we finished college then anyway, so a lot of the people you kind of lose touch with anyway.
Yeah.
And you're doing like plans of like, you know, let's start this conversation, try and get him speaking or whatever. And I remember him saying to me, he basically said a sinful Muslim is better than a non-Muslim. You know what I'm saying? So he basically said that to me, and went down that route. So then that made me think, okay, yeah, he has a point now, you know. If I was to die, even though I know it's true, if I was to die not taking my Shahadah, then, well, who knows what would happen, you know, there's only one way or there. So it opened me up a little bit. It didn't, by no means, it didn't take me to my Shahadah. There's still a long way, but at least it made me think more tangibly on the kind of subject, you know, and I was open to maybe talk a little bit more about it.
So it wasn't you understood it wasn't an all or nothing type of situation where, you know, you're not, because you prior to this seems like you had the mindset, once I take Shahada, I have to make sure everything's perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
But that sort of relaxed you a bit, like, well, no, we're human, and
exactly.
You know, it's not gonna, life is not perfect, things aren't always gonna be perfect. So there is in Islam this thing where, you know, Muslims sin. There's no sinless Muslim that exists today, right? So that probably brought some ease. But was it also difficult for you? Were you on the same sort of trajectory with the football and everything? Did you have the same lifestyle as him?
No, we had the exact same lifestyle at that stage. So before I realised Islam was true, I was at that point where, like he said, it was like football was your religion. So I almost, the togetherness and that, you know, like the brotherhood you get in Islam. At that time, it was just football fans. So we had the same lifestyles, but the way I went was all or nothing. Now I think that was probably a negative thing for you a little bit. I don't know if that's true.
Yeah, because I remember seeing it because we used to stay at a Premier Inn in Manchester every like Wednesday, Thursday, didn't we? To save us just with the commute. And I think you took your Shahada on the Tuesday. So the day after, we stayed in this Premier Inn.
Yeah.
And he was there up at Fudger and stuff, you know, and I was there like, because I like my head's still close to it really at this stage, and it just it almost made it worse because I'm seeing my brother doing everything and jumping straight in, which was obviously great for him, but for me it was
because it's something you want to do as well, right?
Yeah, it was something I wanted to do in the future, but I was like, because I was attaching myself to this old lifestyle of trying to almost pretending to be someone I'm not really, because I do want to be a Muslim, but I'm just trying to keep all of this. It definitely made it worse.
I saw that myself, but it was like there's not much you can do. You can't just not pray. You know what I mean? So for me, it was like I had that preparation from like April. I took my Shahada a couple of weeks after I started uni, which was like the October.
So you took your Shahada first, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I knew from April, so I had that time to sort of prep myself, and you know, I knew like Surah Fatiha before I even took my Shahada and things like that. So I was doing all the research, watching all the speakers go on YouTube videos and stuff. So I was getting my knowledge that way, but I wasn't Muslim yet. So for me, when I took my Shahada, it was like, finally, like I'm in, you know, I'm into it. You know, so even like I took it at the Maghrib. So from that Maghrib, I was praying 5 times.
You did it at the mosque, or did you do it by yourself?
I did it at the masjid. So how it worked is...
was Alice with you as well?
No. He wasn't at that stage yet. Anywhere near really where he'd start going to the masjid. But
but did you have that conversation with him before you went and took the Shahada?
He knew.
I knew it was happening.
Yeah, he knew it was happening. Yeah. But that's another story in itself. Really, I went to the so the sister who helped me, the second person who helped me out.
Yeah.
She gave me the number of a local imam who was like known, quite reputable in the town, basically. So I texted him. So I was saying like, my name's Alex. You know, I've wanted to become Muslim. You know, all this stuff, like a paragraph or so. And I was thinking like, right, you know, I think I text on the Wednesday, so I thought tonight I'll go. Like, so you know, tonight I'll go and just do it. But he was on holiday at the time, or at least away on some form of trip. Yeah. So he was coming back on the Friday. So he said, come on the Friday, and we'll have a chat. I think, you know, you have to be careful sometimes where you need to know who it is you're dealing with, if that makes sense. Like, are they there for the right reasons? Or they, you know, so he wanted to just scope me out, make sure I was actually doing it for the correct reasons, and wanted to give him, you know, make sure I had proper information and things like that. So I went on the Friday up to the office, which was, you know, that was the first time I was even near a masjid, never mind inside one. So I remember standing outside for a bit, like ringing him. I must have had about 12 missed calls. He wasn't there because it wasn't Salah time yet.
Yeah.
So I kept ringing him. And then I asked an uncle, can you take me up to his office? So he took me up there. I walk in, the other worker in the office, he went, so are you from the council, aren't you? That's what the council, right? Yeah. So I was like, no, I'm here because I want to become Muslim. And he was like, what? Sit down. And, you know, may Allah bless him, like, I know him quite well now. He helped me through, like, a lot of the learning stuff. But subhanAllah, he was like, you know, you're from the council, aren't you? Like, I think he was doing, like, the gas or whatever. I was like, no. So what happened then is that was before Maghrib on the Friday. So he was like, oh, we're gonna, you know, he asked for my story and, you know, how I'm here and stuff, just in casual conversation. And then the adhan went off. Now, so I was hearing the adhan upstairs. So he goes, oh, we're about to pray Salah, so do you want to come out and watch? So they had the downstairs, just like where all the guys go, and then the upstairs, like where all the kids go, madrasa. So he's joining the Jamaat, like at the second floor, and I'm just at the back, just sort of sat down. And I think then it hit me, like I was a bit worried. I was a bit like, oh, wow, this is it now. And I was like, do I want to do it? Shaitan's, it's like you said about last attempt, so I think it was like his last ditch, don't do it. But then I got through, and then when I was obviously listening to like the recitation and things, I was like, you know, at ease and things. So that was like, I thought, this is it now. You know, I need to get in the zone almost and get ready. So the Imam came up, and we spoke for a couple of hours about it, really. And what most people don't know about the Shahadah is I did it in his office on the Friday. Right. But we did like a fake public Shahadah on the Tuesday.
On the Tuesday, all right, okay, got
you. So my actual Shahadah was actually in his office. Yeah. But sort of the public one was downstairs. So I left that day thinking, right, you like once a week come up, we can teach you things and everything, and, you know, we'll start from there. So I left the office there, met a few people who I know now. So got dropped off, and for everyone else I was just late from uni. So everyone was sort of wondering where I went. But yeah, so, you know, then it was the Tuesday I was aiming at, and I was nervous for the Tuesday. Yeah. So I was thinking like, oh, it's going to be in front. I'm not someone who likes to go in front of a lot of people. Yeah. So, but I thought I have to do it because that's my way of getting into the community. Yeah. So I did it, and I was nervous the day before. But once I got down there, it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, obviously. But then you get all the hugs and everything, and I got pre-warned about all that. And the good thing is you had some good interactions with some good uncles, you know. Yeah, alhamdulillah. Sometimes the uncle stories, you know, are quite frightening. Some of the interactions. I think a lot of reverts obviously have those bad experiences, especially those with tattoos and things, and you get a lot of the, you know. But subhanAllah, I think the bad experiences sort of shadow the good ones. There's so many good people at the masjids who want to help you out. Yeah. And even the ones that you might call a bad experience, they still want to help you out, if that makes sense. They just don't do it in their own way.
To be honest, the Muslim community, especially in Blackburn, is brilliant, to be honest. Like they've helped us out so much, really, haven't they? Even at like Eid, we get invited to the Imam's house and stuff, and, you know, with his family, you know, they've done a lot for us, you know. And where people will have like these negative experiences, I don't really think we've had too many, have we, really?
No, I wouldn't say any, really. I mean, obviously you get the sort of, I remember I was a Muslim for 2 weeks at this stage, so I go to the masjid, at an Isha time I just left and went to the masjid, and there was like a dawah group from Preston there. Right. So I was like, oh, come down, there's like a kitchen in the basement, basically. It's quite a big masjid, so I was like, come down and we'll have food and things. So I go down and have food, and it was the dawah guy, basically, and this uncle and me. And we speak to the uncle now. It's kind of like, he's such a nice person. But at the time it was like, you know, the whole like eat with your hands and everything, which I already was prepared for because I knew all this stuff. So I was already trying to do that. But the dawah guy's like, oh no, I'll get you a spoon or whatever if you want, or I'll get this, and, you know, I'll help you out, or, you know, going easy a little bit. And the uncle was like, no, that's from Shaitan, eat with your hands. You know, I remember putting my shoes on the way out, and he was like, no, you know, right foot first, that's from Shaitan, and you put it on the left foot, and it's like, but the guy's, his intentions are probably one of the purest intentions of the whole masjid. You know, when we see each other, you know, we have a good conversation. You know, he's a brilliant person. It's just people don't always know when to say what they have to say.
How to say it,
Yeah.
And it's an important point for people that are watching this to sort of realize as well, especially new Muslims, that you may have those experiences, but you know, you've shed some light on it, which is you got to see try to see in the right way. With the intentions are good, it's just they don't know what to communicate and how to communicate at certain times.
Yeah.
You know?
or even what stage they're at as well.
Yeah.
You know, like if someone starts teaching you like Arabic and stuff when you've just taken your Shahadah and stuff, you know, like obviously I know you kind of got through the process of doing that anyway, but it's overwhelming. You know, so I think it's important to kind of understand where they're at and just give them a bit of time to adjust and stuff like that.
Yeah.
See, that's where it's different with me. I think I'm more on the extreme end of it. So like, I was actually subhanAllah on a different tangent. I was already learning the Arabic letters anyway, just because I liked the language. Yeah. You know, so I just found it really interesting. So I thought, that was nothing to do with Islam at all, which was also another common ground for the people I knew at college.
Right.
So, so for me, I wanted to jump straight into the learning the Arabic. Do you get me? So I was like, that's brilliant because I already knew a little bit of it. I found it interesting anyway. Yeah. So I was straight on board. Now, I mean, I probably didn't even know how to pray at that time properly. Right. I mean, I knew the actions. I was like, side-eyeing the guy next to me, and stuff. But I was right into it in that respect. So I think it's really important to scope where the Muslims are. I mean, we've got this thing going on in Blackburn. Quick shout out actually. It's called Hope and Help basically, and it's sort of like a mini iERA actually.
Right.
It's
Hope and Help, right?
Hope and Help, yeah.
Yeah.
And we help new Muslims, get on onto the deen, and they can come and like we do consultations, we do the lessons, we do all sorts really, whatever they need, any family issues, anything. So we get all that sorted for them. It's like a section of the overall charity. They do many different things, but we run that bit, don't we? Yeah. And since getting involved with that, you really do see the scope of
the vast range.
The range of all Muslims are on such different levels. I've met there's a sister who on an introductory meeting we did, and they might be a Muslim for like 3 years. They might not know how to pray, or they might know just how to make wudu. And people take it in their own time. For someone who took it in the deep end straight away, you almost feel like everyone should do that. And it's not like that at all.
Why aren't you like that? Why aren't you like me? Like,
we can
all fall into that sometimes because it's something that comes naturally to us. We assume it should be the same for everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
So but I really want to get into the discussion about what you guys do in Hope and Help and some advice and tips you can give as well for Muslims and non-Muslims. But just going back to so you've taken Shahadah, right? You did it on the Friday, you did it on the Tuesday in front of everyone. Where are you at this point, like with your journey now? Like, are you?
So I'm still almost like living the uni life a little bit. We're conscious, but basically trying to frantically balance everything together. And then I remember we was in this premiering, and you showed me a video.
Al-Rahman.
Surah Rahman, and obviously the ayats in that are targeting exactly what the stage I was at. And I remember because it was really probably the first Quran I've actually heard, really. And I remember watching it, just numb, feeling like, wow, this is obviously the power of it and stuff, And I remember going into the bathroom and looking in the mirror and thinking, that it's mad. Like, what am I doing? And
so you heard it and you read the translation, I assume.
It's like a YouTube video.
Yeah.
So I think again, you're like strategically kind of like doing like little seeds, planting seeds.
Yeah, I mean, I was tactically planning it out.
Yeah.
As soon as I realised and as soon as he knew, and I knew he wanted to be Muslim, I was throwing little things in. It'd be
that would help him with his...
Just to try and get him on the deen, but I knew it was in his own time, and I couldn't be like, we never sort of pushed you.
You'd never have a conversation saying, "Oh, well, why are you not doing this? Why are you not doing that?" It'd be stuff like that, where it'd be like a video where I knew what he was doing. You can't challenge it because he's always doing is showing me a YouTube video, Yeah. So, and then that's when it hit where I was like, okay, this is a bit like I probably should do something about it. And so time still is going on, And I remember it was the January that I actually took my Shahadah. So that's about 6 months after I realised it was true. Is that?
So you were taking it in June, I think you said June, July.
No, so
we realised it was true in June, both of us.
Well, April.
Well, you in April, but in terms of
when we both knew each other knew it was true. If that makes sense. So I took mine in October from the April. So that
it was a couple of months till he. January.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Actually, it was 3 months on the day, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah. So I had that preparation beforehand, but it was on the January.
SubhanAllah. So January comes around.
Yeah.
And you finally sort of figure things out for yourself. And
and you just said out, didn't you? You said, why not just do it and just start it, and then if you're gonna sin, then sin, and just take it at your own pace, but just at least get the Shahadah down, just So we said, we'll do it on the Wednesday, and it was United the day before and stuff, and it was a big game as well. It was United City, and I remember thinking it was almost like this is the last game before I'm going to become a Muslim, So then the Wednesday comes around. I wasn't definitely not doing it in a masjid. It was almost even a few months after that. It was like I still didn't want to integrate into kind of like Muslims at all, really, not practicing Muslims, because I knew myself that I wasn't going to be fully practicing. So it was almost, I felt wrong in terms of going to say a masjid where everyone's practicing, and I'm in reality I'm half-heartedly doing it, and I just wanted to get the Shahadah locked down, so if anything happens, then I'm so we did it in our living room. So it was a strange, it was like the best, and I don't say worst, but it was the best, but it was a very strange day at the same time, because I realised I did it, and it was like I was buzzing, obviously, but it was really overwhelming. I remember we went for a walk afterwards, didn't we? Yeah. And then I come back home, and I put EF on, actually. It's like a little refuge, just to at least I just watch my videos,
That's your little community.
Oh yeah, exactly.
That's what I'm comfortable with.
Yeah. I just whack that on and just shut myself out and just binge watch a lot of that, really.
Yeah.
And then so time goes by from there. So February and March, and then COVID hits. Yeah. So I went to a few Jummahs, didn't we, before then?
Yeah, we managed
like 3 or something like that in Manchester, from uni. And COVID hits. Now, any excuse I had there of, I don't have time, I don't, out the window, because locked in your house, So then, no excuse. I had to almost get into it then. Yeah. And to be fair, from the few Jummahs I was doing, I knew I was on the way, because obviously when you actually get integrated in a masjid, you feel the peace with it.
Yeah.
So then I started praying. Fajr was a little harder, maybe like a week or so later, and then I was at that as well. And then I was almost jumped a big step then in that short amount of time. That was only the first week of lockdown, wasn't it? Yeah, it was very quick, really. In fact, I think it was just when uni finished, weren't it? So it was maybe like late March, wasn't it? Yeah. So now I'm praying and things, and I knew that at that point there was no going back then. Yeah. That kind of worm that I mentioned earlier, that it was open now, and I was on the journey myself. So a lot of it was, I was still watching a lot of EF Dawa. That was the main ones, and obviously the other channels that are similar. And that was my way of gaining knowledge, because I even though I was praying, obviously the Arabic, learning that is difficult.
Yeah.
And we got told what the actions to do, and maybe what to say when you don't know the Arabic and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it was just going down that journey. Ramadan comes around, obviously, because that was in lockdown, which obviously was a bit. It was in some ways it was underwhelming, because you want to get involved with it.
Yeah.
But for me, I mean, obviously there was a lot of bad things that happened with COVID. Even I've lost family members through it. But in terms of my Islam, it was perfect. It couldn't have asked for much better, because of how the lockdown aspects of it, and not having to go to a masjid, because I was still terrified of that, really.
Yeah.
Because it was all locked down. And then it kind of, was it July, weren't it, when it kind of opened up again? And I remember thinking, right, I'm finally going to the masjid.
Yeah.
We had a charity that was doing handing meals out at COVID and stuff like that. So I met a few people through there. And it was like not going back really from there.
And what's really beautiful about both of yours journey is it's you're seeing, although you're very close and similar in many ways, but at the same time, you've had almost two separate journeys from the point of understanding is the truth to starting to practice, right? And I think it's very powerful for people watching, especially non-Muslims who are close to Islam, that, you know, Islam has that flexibility, if you like, where if you have someone like Alex who's just straight on into it, wanting to go all the way, you know, it caters for that. And if you're like Alice, where, you know, you're a bit, take your time, you know, one step at a time, it caters for that as well, right? And I think another beautiful point you mentioned, which is some people just don't take their Shahadah because they're just not sure if they can sort of change everything. It shouldn't be an excuse.
No, it has to be the other way around, where you take it and then you learn, and if you're still sinning, then so be it. It's a process of it. And then once you realise and you gain wisdom through Islam, you look back on it and you think, I shouldn't be doing them things, you know what I'm saying? Then you can repent and these kind of things, you know? But yeah, definitely, you've got to take your Shahadah because you've got to realise the consequences of not taking it. So obviously that's the advice you'd give to anyone out there really thinking of it, because you've just got to get it locked down and then do everything at your own pace, you know? Surround yourself with people who also understand that you want to do it at your own pace. But at the same time, people who are encouraging you to you know, progress. And yeah, that's the advice I'd give.
So there's another thing I want to ask both of you, especially when once you've taken your Shahadah. You know, one of the big challenges that new Muslims face is, you know, that because they don't know the Arabic, or they're learning the Arabic, they're learning the prayer, you know, they're learning loads of new things. There's so much going on. They find it difficult to connect with Allah, because, you know, in Islam it's not just a case of believing, oh, there's one God. You know, Islam is very practical. Like, it's about now having that relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with God. So how did you guys go about that? Like, how's your journey been as far as connecting with now your Creator, you know, and developing that way?
Yeah, I'd say with me, what helped me the most with that is listening to Quran. You know, I was listening to it, you know, a long time before becoming Muslim anyway, so I was already having that connection a little bit. I gave up music at that time as well, so I was sort of moving over to like Nasheed and Quran and stuff. So for me personally, it was more that listening to Quran, learning more about the religion and knowing how solid it really is. You know, when I look back and thinking what I actually accepted the religion on, obviously they were all strong foundations, but the other, I think you could probably talk hours and hours and hours and hours and hours about all the different evidences for Islam. And when you gain that knowledge afterwards, you go, wow, subhanallah, like there is every angle's covered, you know. And that was it for me, the gaining the knowledge. And I think really Speaker's Corner helped a lot for that. I think for the both of us, really. Where we could watch those videos and gain that knowledge, even though we weren't going to the masjid or you know, even praying at that point, you know. So that's what helped me. But since becoming Muslim, I'd say pretty much the same sort of stuff, but more practically actually like reading it rather than watching YouTube videos and, you know, and I'd say it's still quite similar that way actually, where it's just keep gaining the knowledge and keep connected, you know,
and progressing,
and progress.
And another thing is on that subject is me and that, because we're so close, we kind of bounce off each other with it. So I mean, the things that how many times I've had to rely on Alex for things and like to kind of almost guide me the right way, and you know the amount of questions he used to bombard you with. Honestly, it was mad. It's almost like you don't want to slacken off because you know that you've got someone else who's also on it. So it's almost you're going to disappoint them at the same time, you know. So then it's almost like you don't want to slacken off, and then naturally, because you're still doing a lot of, you know, you're praying on time and this kind of thing, you get close to Allah anyway. So having that support around you, I mean, it was great in our case because of obviously we're twins. So, but even having just mates and stuff like that who are on it, and you know that they're almost going to keep you in check if you do anything wrong, you know, it's so helpful. It's really helpful.
And obviously, mashallah, now where you stand right now, you're somewhat obviously Muslim now. Mashallah, you have beards and everything, right? Although beards are trendy and loads of people have beards these days, but and we know the importance of parents in Islam, you know, about the respect of parents, the mother, the father, etc. So just briefly, how did you manage that side of things with family and your Islam?
I think the thing you have to think about really with family and things is, you know, take it easy. You know, don't go in at 150 mile an hour.
Yeah.
Bringing up all of your EF Dower debates you've just watched and start,
It's so easy to do as well. It happens with loads of people.
We made that mistake quite a bit. And another mistake that we made with it, which others might learn from, is because of how difficult our time was praying. Because obviously our parents didn't know for quite some time. Was praying in secret in a not too big of a house, really, was it? No. So 2 of us at the same time as well. It was a nightmare, really. Yeah. If someone comes upstairs, it's get them a solo lobbing under bed. It's all that. And obviously, as they've found out, I think they're kind of seeing the difficulties of what we're going through, and that maybe what we've carried over. And naturally, we're kind of a perfectionist anyway. I think when it comes to it, especially me, it's obviously not a good thing where you're like, have I done wudu properly? All this kind of stuff,
because that's where shaitan can get you.
It's probably one of my biggest struggles personally, and you're almost seeing the negative side of it, I feel like. And obviously because you're in your house with your parents, I think they kind of see that negative side, when really that's my problem. That's not representing Islam. I think representing yourself in an Islamic way is in front of your parents is really, really, it's really useful.
Yeah, it's crucial. I mean, I think with us, we was quite, how you have some reverts that come and they say, like, I hate my parents, I used to argue all the time with them. We was very close to our parents as well. So we've always got along with them. We've always, talked to them about things. So it wasn't much of a dynamic shift. When you become Muslim, a lot of people automatically turn into this amazing son. And it was sort of like we was already on that level where we respected them and we never really argued with them anyway and things like that. So there wasn't much of a change that way. It's not like I wish they were a change that way. Yeah. But a lot of the parents who have reverts who have become these amazing, examples. Yeah. See Islam in that and go, that's because of Islam.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas our family never saw that because there wasn't much of a difference. Yeah. So that was one thing, but I think really it's just important not to overburden. She used to, like, say for example, my mum and dad now, they might see us pray, right? And they think, you have to pray 5 times a day. That must be so tiring. And you have to get up in the early morning every single day. You have to fast in Ramadan. Yeah. And they see it as a burden, whereas Muslims don't see it as a burden.
No, like in reality, like the amount our lives change in our own mindset. We mention it a lot, don't we, about where we would be if we weren't Muslim. Yeah. And we didn't have we had a great upbringing, alhamdulillah, So it wouldn't have come from, we wouldn't be in a bad spot, but if you were to take it away now after what you've got from it, we always say it must be, it's because it almost shifts kind of the happiness up a level. Yeah. So people from our background, it's basically you'll work for a holiday or a night out or something. Yeah. That'll be your happiness, back to work, and it's just a cycle. And you might think you're having a good life because you're going on holiday, you're enjoying your time there, you've got a family and all this stuff. But Islam, it shifts it up a complete different dimension that anyone who's not Muslim doesn't understand. Yeah. So they see things like fasting and all this stuff as a burden, but we see it as, you get closer to Allah through it. Yeah. You actually have a proper sense of happiness, not just happiness, but contentment, because you'll always chase money and you'll always chase these things, material things. But then when you sit back and you realise actual contentment in life, you realise the importance of like family and these kind of things. It's almost, you don't get that if you're not connected to the Creator, Yeah.
That's a powerful point, because at the end of the day, everyone worships something. Yeah, exactly. And in today's world, it's mainly about materialism. About having that holiday, having that money, having that house, having that car. But the happiness you get from these things is short lived. Yeah, it is. And then you're just back on that type of wanting to chase the next big thing, right? Yeah. And you're always chasing, happiness. It's almost a mirage from that perspective. But from an Islamic perspective, like you mentioned, it's more meaningful. It's deeper. Exactly. It's like constant. So maybe share some thoughts on that. Like, obviously you've come from a good background. You've had a good relationship with your parents all along. You went to good schools. Things were good, right? But you said it stepped it up a notch when you started practicing, became Muslim. So what did you gain or have gained from Islam? Which you...
I think definitely it's just that level of like peace. Like for example, what I do at university, I see the people around me and they're all fantastic people. But you can tell that they're gonna finish, go London or whatever, get a fantastic job, and it's like, oh, the promotion, this, and you almost sit back and you're almost in your own little like bubble looking at it all happening, and you're kind of thinking, even in Salah, for example, where it's almost a break from life. Do you get me?
Mm-hmm.
You don't get that it's so fast paced that everything's just chase. Whereas in Islam, it's so peaceful and so like, like even when you just have your day after fasting and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the feeling you get from praying, the feeling you get from learning a surah, these kind of things, you're never feeling that in a million years if you're not Muslim. You're not, you're not religious or anything like that.
Something to add there really is, I mean, even like, in the last few days, like traveling and just, different things where you might think, oh wow, this has happened, or what, like say you miss a train. This is like, I always use the example, you've missed a bus, you missed a train or whatever. If a non-Muslim will probably have a meltdown over it and no, and as Muslims you just go, it's Qadr, I mean, it's like, that was going to happen anyway.
Yeah.
There must be a reason that has happened.
Yeah.
And you're just at peace in general with that, and that life's already planned out. Allah has always known about what your life's going to be like. Just because you don't know, it's all pre-planned. It's all, and things like that is what puts me at peace a lot personally. In that way, where it's like, something bad might happen, but you think, well, there'll be some good in it, or there'll be something that I can get out of this that is going to be a positive, rather than Whereas if you're non-Muslim and something awful happens or whatever, you think, is this it? Like, is this my life? This
That's
is where
a
I'm
good point,
going.
that, because even like just the way I am, I'm kind of like I've got a bit of a temper, say, and if something happens, I'll have a meltdown over it. And even like, when COVID did hit, and say, we lost a family member through it, and you think about it from a different kind of point of view. Yeah. And I know if I wasn't Muslim, it would have been unbelievable. It would have thrown everyone off the rails, which it did. Yeah. But you think of it from a different dimension. Like as good come out of it. So, for example, my grandma didn't know I was Muslim. She didn't know about Islam. These kind of things. So all these negative things in life, it softens it.
Yeah. Because it gives it meaning, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And that's another thing about Islam people don't realize, and unfortunately, and it's not them to blame because of just how people are divided and they don't talk, and then the media, etc.
Yeah.
But Islam isn't only about practices like rituals. It gives you a comprehensive understanding of life. Yeah. Like it puts things into perspective.
Yeah, like a moral code as well.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And to understand what you should and shouldn't be doing. Where people go off the whims and desires and stuff like that, you've got something objective to go at. And you'll see people disagreeing, saying politics, whatever, is this right, is that right, and you can just sit back, just relaxed. I know Hamza from Dawah, for example, he always says this, where it's like the mind's at rest and the heart's at rest, and you don't get that through anything else. Nothing else in life will
because nothing's stable otherwise.
Yeah, exactly.
When through Allah you find everything's grounded.
Yeah.
And it makes sense. Like even the hard things, the difficult times, there's a wisdom behind it. And it's reassuring because you know who Allah is.
Yeah,
Allah
exactly.
loves you more than anyone loves you. He wants the best for you. And He's told us this life is a test, so you're going to be challenged. You're going to go through hardships. So that just puts the person. It's inevitable that the person that understands this is going to be at ease.
Yeah, exactly.
Because whatever happens, it's just it's Qadr Allah. I may not understand it.
Yeah.
It may be beyond me, but I know the one that's allowed it to happen wants best for me.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm okay with that.
Even to add to that as well slightly is what I think puts a lot of people at peace, and me included, is there is not one angle of life at all. Genuinely, there is nothing that is not covered by Islam. Every little thing you do in the day can be an act of worship or have at least some relation to Islam. How you deal with your earnings, how you deal in your career, what's right, what's wrong. There's nothing at all where you have to resort to something else to go check the manual somewhere else. The manual is Islam from the get-go. And that's sort of something you can challenge anyone who's a member of any other religion to find something like that. Christianity, for example, I mean, we've been Christian most of our lives, even now, and there's nothing like that. The best you can really get. So, for example, in our school, they never ate fish on a Friday. They never ate meat on a Friday, so it was fish. They'd ask you to fast in Lent. that's it.
Well, yeah, by fast, by the way, it's like give up a bag of crisps or something, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
definitely wasn't anything like
No, exactly.
So you still eat, but
yeah, it was literally like give up a bag of crisps. It's like,
exactly. Like you get people in our school who generally give up things they don't like.
Yeah.
So if you don't like, I don't like peanuts or something, they go out and give up peanuts. So you know what I mean? It's that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So that's all you get, you know. And the fact, the comparison, people even try and make the comparison to Islam and that over that is just out of this world, I think, because it's a complete legal system. You know, there is actual authoritative legality that can be taken out of it, even in that sense. You know, there's obviously the worship side, the spiritual side, but you know, you can literally build a country off it, if that makes sense as well. You know,
and it's not just rules for the sake of rules in Islam. It's like everything, every rule is meaningful. And it's there to benefit you, because Allah's free of need. God doesn't need us, right? So whatever He's told us to do, it's actually for our own benefit, if we really think about it. Yeah. So I've got another question for you guys. Obviously, you know, you're born and brought up in Britain, right? From the outside, some people think of Islam and they think it's completely incompatible with sort of a British way of life, right? Obviously, you guys have changed in many ways. You've changed your lifestyles, but I'm sure you've held on to much of who you are, and you know, I'm sure you still watch football.
I still got United,
football, right? So
I
want you guys to give us some thoughts on this, because some people do have this perception that you become Muslim, you're just adopting a totally different. It's just non-compatible with my way I understand life in Britain.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you definitely can keep your way of life. Of course, you can. It's but you do think that when you first accept Islam, you think I've got to change everything.
Yeah.
But as time goes on, in reality, Islam's very simple. You know, it's just a belief in one God, and then when you go from that, it's what really does change. And this is what, even when we was like telling our family and things, just think what actually is going to change in reality. You might make these stories up in your head and things, but nothing actually is going to fundamentally change in your life. You know, like, you know, I still go uni, nothing changed from that. I still go United, you know, that's not changed. Obviously, as in terms of going to a pub or something. Yeah. So. Yeah, it's nonsense that you can think that you can't be a British Muslim. Yeah. It's it's.
I think the problem is with a lot of reverts or potential like sort of non-Muslims interested in Islam is they just don't, like you said, they don't think it's compatible. So for me, even like, you know, like you said about United, for example, we go United, but we've put boundaries in place. Obviously, you're not going to go to the pub before it. You're not going to do all the, you know, certain things, which is when we were just on about before about Allah wants best for you. That's why you're not going to go to the pub. There's reasons behind the rulings, like you said. So okay, I'm not going to say there's absolutely nothing that will change. There will be things that change, but is it for the better or is it for the worse?
And you'll notice it's for the better. There'll be enjoyable changes. You know, like we look back on the lifestyle we had of, you know, going to the pub and that being the kind of thing that you'd enjoy, say, you know, before United. And you look back at it, you almost think, was that really what I was doing? You know, so you won't be thinking I've got to change it, and then now I'm you know, annoyed at it, and not. You'll want to change as time goes on. You know, for example, when I started praying, that was it. I knew that everything naturally led on from that, and it wasn't a hassle. It was just something that I knew I had to do, but knew I wanted to do as well. So yeah, that was.
And I mean, sacrifices. Everyone has to make sacrifices in life, right? And what you guys have done is the small sacrifices that you have made. You've understood that they're meaningful sacrifices. They're not just, and they, if anything, in the long run, it's better for you.
Yeah, definitely.
You know? And
I mean, to you know, throw something in there. There's a beautiful promise Allah made, right? If you give something up for the sake of Allah, He'll replace it with something better. And subhanallah, the things, you know, you might give up that you genuinely think are like, you know, the pinnacle of your life, you know, say even, you know, a job maybe if you'd work in, you know, a background that's haram, anything, it will get replaced with something better. You might, the day after you say you've lost your job, after you leave your job or whatever, the day after might not be quite good, you know, but I can guarantee you, if you looked back, you'd go, subhanallah, there's a clear, something has clearly changed for the better in me, or something's been added that's better, and Allah's you know, given me something that's far, far better than I even could imagine, you know. And that's an important thing to remember as a non-Muslim looking into Islam, and even new reverts as well. You know, there's a lot of people who unfortunately maybe they lose family members or whatever. SubhanAllah, Allah's watching that. You know, it's not, you're not just on your own. You know, you've embraced a religion where Allah's going to see all this stuff, you know, and you believe in that. So it's important to realize you're gonna go through hard times at the start, you know, but that will get easier, you know. Subhanallah, it will get easier, and you'll get something better if you give something up for Allah. Allah will replace something better, and you need to keep that in your mind throughout your journey. And that's something I was doing at the time, thinking, well, I'll get something better, and subhanallah, that's already, you know, the case. So alhamdulillah, you know.
Alhamdulillah. So look, the last thing I want to ask you guys is, obviously you're doing you mentioned it already, a lot of work with Reverts, Revert brothers and sisters. Obviously Reverts go through a whole host of challenges, right? And there's many, right? There may be some common ones that come up over and over again. So I want you guys to give some advice to the Revert brothers and sisters that may be watching this, because we have spoken about non-Muslims a lot, and I want you guys to give us some thoughts on advice for Reverts. Maybe let's start with Reverts that are dealing with family issues, you know, resistance, maybe, you know, they're at the point where they're thinking about mentioning it to the family, but they don't know how it's going to go down. They have mentioned it and it's not gone too well. What sort of advice can you give?
I think first of all, it's good to know that there's no magic wand for it. You're not going to sort everything out just like that.
Yeah.
You've got to face difficult times, and you've got to face it head on. You know. But I think speaking to your parents in a way that's not going in all guns blazing, saying, well, this is true because this, you know, and speaking to them in a way that's, you know, understanding and kind of
relatable.
Relatable. Yeah, that's another big point in terms of Reverts, where it has got to be relatable. Where you don't want maybe someone like, for example, I used to like Jubba and these kind of things. Seeing people speak to me in that was almost overwhelming. You know. So when you are dealing with Reverts, it's a completely different way. But in terms of family, speak to them in a good way. Definitely don't let if they're throwing insults at you and these kind of things, just take a step back. Realize where you used to be.
Mm-hmm.
You know, did you have these same thoughts? And then think, well, they're just ignorant on the matter. They're not bad people.
Yeah. So have empathy towards.
Yeah, exactly. Just be calm and just discuss it. And if anything kicks off about it, I mean, there's different scenarios. So, for example, we told our parents when we had accommodation at uni. If we'd have told them whilst we're at home, it would have been a lot worse. Mm. So, you know, if you're young, you don't necessarily have to tell them straight away. You know, again, Hamza from EF Dawah, he always says, tell them you're going vegetarian. You know, you care about the animals and all this stuff. That's a way in terms of food that can sort it. So you have got to. It's very situations specific. Where if you are young, it's very difficult because you're relying on your parents for a lot of things. You don't know how they're going to react. You know, there's obviously a range of ways your parents can react. Maybe you think your parents will probably be all right with it, and if so, then it is just about speaking to them in a nice way. You know, and then really they might not be the issues. But if it's someone who might be hostile, I think you've got to be very wise with it. You can't just come out with it and kind of start trying to prove them wrong on points and stuff, because it'll just cause more harm than good.
Pre-plan as well.
Yeah, definitely pre-plan it.
Think about it. What's the best time? Have the courage to do it. You know, pre-plan it. Go on this day. I'm going to do it. Don't do what we did, which is put it off as much as possible.
We were forced to tell our parents basically because of Jummah was a Friday. Right. Jummah was a Friday. Jummah was on Christmas Day. So we had to go to the masjid. It was impossible to get away, obviously, because you know Christmas is obviously a big day. You're getting with family and stuff like that. So we had to. Now, in reality, it was just thrown on them. You know, I remember any sort of conversation we'd almost avoid. So I think we told our dad we don't celebrate Christmas on Christmas Eve. I mean, that's a poor decision. Yeah. So you have to be really wise in what you do and courageous in what you do, and realise that systematically plan it out. Think about what they're thinking. Think about the misconceptions they have, and act in a way that's Islamic and portrays Islam in the right way.
I think, you have to realise as well, Allah could have, you know, made you Muslim to give dawah to your family members.
Yeah.
You know, don't start shouting at everyone because they don't agree with you. Don't start going all guns blazing and then drive all those people away from Islam because they think, well, my child or my relative or whoever it is, even, it doesn't just have to be parents. They've become Muslim and now I'm getting shouted at in my living room or I'm getting shouted at over the phone. Or you have to realise, you know, you could be their gates to Islam as well, you know, and that's an important point to always remember, you know. And obviously there's a lot of people have, I mean, it's not just parents as well, obviously there's people who, you know, they might have a girlfriend and things like that, you know, which alhamdulillah I wasn't in that situation, but people have that problem,
it's very difficult,
and it's even worse for the sisters really, who might have a boyfriend or whatever, or a husband. But you have to remember, go easy. You know, the saying, even if Dawa lot saying it, even, you know, I think you guys say too, you know, a flower doesn't grow in a day. It needs the water, it needs the sustenance. So don't expect your parents to grow in a day either. You might have took a year to start praying. Don't expect them to take it on the chin and the day after they're okay with it as well. You know, you were the person accepting the religion, and you took a year. So what about the ones that are going to have to try and adapt their life around you? Yeah,
and it's plus as your parents, the relationship's different as well, isn't it?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's not like talking to your friends.
Yeah,
it's a bit different. So what would you guys advise? Another sort of common thing that comes up is new brothers and sisters becoming overwhelmed. It's just too much to do, and they're trying to do everything, and they're burning out essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
What would you advise someone in that situation?
Well, funny enough, it was actually a non-Muslim on my first day of uni. Alhamdulillah, I'm close to him now. He would say probably give me one of the best advice. And I told him I basically went to uni that day as my head was still, you know, knackered.
Yeah.
And I thought if someone asks me if I'm religious, I'll tell them. If not, I'll just not mention it. And it came up, so I mentioned it. And he basically just said, "Oh yeah, you know, but it's a process." And then that stuck with me. It's exactly what I wanted to hear at the time. Yeah. And I think with reverts, it is a process, and you have got to avoid burnout, because you'll do a lot. You might learn so much in 4 weeks. And then you think that's tiring, and then bin everything off. Yeah. And I think even in life that happens, and I think you have just got to pace yourself. You know, you won't stop learning until you die. You know, even born Muslims, you know, scholars and these kind of things, they're going to be learning until they die. It's that vast, Islam. So you know, with like learning the Arabic and these kind of things, take it step at a time. You know, maybe for example, what we do at Hope and Help, we have an education program. It's like wide range. It takes basically from a revert, right from accepting Islam, right through to kind of understanding, like having a good understanding of, you know, a variety of different things, even like with dawah, so they can relate to family members and stuff like that. So I think it is important just to know it's a process, take your time with it, and realise that if you don't take your time with it, because reverts have a common problem where they're that interested in it because they've just adopted this amazing new way of life. They want to learn everything. So yeah, just to pace yourself, and really, you know, even if you're focusing on one thing. So I remember in my first Ramadan, I was just watching a lot of YouTube in terms of like EF Dawah again. You know, they help me a lot, just to get an understanding of what Islam was. Why I actually believe what I believe, because obviously that's really important, obviously, in terms of whether you're communicating it, but even just for yourself, you know. You're going to have, say, friends who don't agree with you. You might throw something at you and you might think, wait, what? And then that can just throw someone off completely. So, you know, even if you focus on one thing, developing it, and then, you know, branching out and slowly. So, yeah, I think that's really important, yeah.
Definitely. I think, as well, you know, you have to remember as a revert, you might look at say you're 20 or whatever, and you might look at a 20-year-old practicing born Muslim. Yeah. And you've seen all these people do all this, you know, you've seen them do all this stuff and things you think you probably can't even do at all, you know. You have to remember these people have learned since
they've had a whole lifetime.
You know, they've been going to the masjid every day, you know, after school and things, and they've had the lessons, and you have to remember you need those lessons as well. You know, you're not just going to snap onto it. And these people have grown up with it, and, you know, they've had good teachers, and, you know, and you might not have that, you know, and you have to remember, take it, like you said, take it a step at a time. Yeah. Be wise in your own mindset. You know, if you're feeling overwhelmed, don't take a step back. Don't think I have to keep going because in the Quran it says this. You know, I have to just think, okay, well, I might be, you know, not stagnant, but slowing down for a little bit, but alhamdulillah, that I'm still going, you know, and I'm still a Muslim.
Another thing is as well is to target what you're learning as well, because this is something I did personally. Is I was interested in a lot of EF Dawah, but I didn't know exactly how to pray, like, you know, with the Arabic and stuff, you know. So that took a lot longer than it should have done. so to target, just to get your salah down, is really important first. That's your advice you're going to give to any new Muslim. Really, you've now accepted Islam. Now move on to that.
Yeah.
So to focus on that, take the time with that, and then branch out, and not just grab things from all over the place like what I did.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So prioritize what's most important, and then work your way down, basically.
Yeah.
And it's obviously it is a learning curve for people, and sometimes you do get zealous and excited and you want to do more than you can, but take it easy on yourself, essentially, because even when the Quran came down, upon the first recipients, it didn't come down in one shot. Exactly. It was over a period of 23 odd years, and the companions gradually they learned slowly over time and started. So that's how we should take it. Just one step at a time. Just because we have the whole Quran now, it doesn't mean you have to internalize all of it immediately. It's a lifelong process.
Exactly.
So that's sort of some points on revert brothers and sisters. Now, obviously, mashallah, you guys are doing some amazing work as far as helping reverts. In iERA, we have some courses like step by step and teaching Muslims how to now help revert brothers and sisters, because this is an area which there's a knowledge gap for Muslims. How do we now support revert brothers and sisters properly, where we don't overburden them, burn them out, and hope that they don't end up leaving Islam. So what advice would you give to brothers and sisters who may be revert, maybe born Muslim, but that want to help new Muslims? What would you say to them?
Well, with me, we actually went to one of the iERA Dawah training courses. Right.
Murtada told me. He told me upstairs in Jummah. He said that you brothers were there.
So that was in Blackburn actually itself, and you guys travel around and do that sort of stuff. So if that's available near you, get on it, do it, because even we was already involved in Hope and Help, but the amount we learned, and I'm thinking we almost changed our approach slightly as well. And realize it's. You're not talking. Realize who you're talking to. Don't start coming out with terms they might not know. Don't overburden them with Arabic terms. Like inshallah, mashallah. For me, that didn't bother me, but it bothers a lot of people because they think, "What's this foreign language that people are speaking?" They don't realize what it is yet. And just go easy on them. Don't if they seem a little bit reluctant, don't push it too much. Don't be like, "No, but you have to do." Be sort of caring to that person and realize what's worse, them not wearing a beard, not having a beard maybe, or them not being a Muslim anymore because you've pushed them that far out of it. I think that's a big one. Also, if you're teaching that person, go easy as well, but that is the main one. Go easy on the revert. Speak good words, have a good knowledge back in yourself, make sure you're doing good, because that person will look at you and take example from you, and if you're not praying 5 times a day, they'll go, well, he's not doing it, so why should I don't have to do it?
That happens anyway with everything, isn't it?
Exactly.
But even being relatable though, I think as well.
Oh, that's a big one.
That was massive for me, because I wasn't practicing, as I first realised it was true. So I almost felt wrong in terms of like going to a masjid because I knew I wasn't practicing. So if you are speaking to reverts, be relatable. Don't, obviously I know there's a Sunnah way of dressing, but personally, if you're speaking to fresh reverts, I think conduct yourself in a way where the revert feels comfortable and feels that they can talk to you, feels that it's not going to push them away, and also there's a distinction between culture and religion. So the cultural things, learn what the cultural things are, learn what the Islamic things are.
Yes. And
bring them Islam, don't bring them culture.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that's very important because you see some reverts maybe doing things that isn't actually Islamic, but they think it is. Because they're being taught it. So I think that's fundamental as well.
I mean, if you look at the whole world, like you got Muslims all over the world, and they have their own sort of dress codes. As long as it's within the framework, they have their own styles of dress code. So it's, and I've seen that again. You see it with reverts. They're sort of almost the next day they're dressing a certain way, and like, okay, if you want to do it and you like that type of stuff, fine. But
I think it's great because a lot of the time, obviously because of your colour of your skin, basically, a lot of people don't think you're Muslim. And it annoys me that because I want people to know I'm Muslim. So things like taupe is brilliant that way because it's like it's an outward statement to say, yeah, I'm Muslim, I'm proud of being Muslim.
Yeah.
But obviously some people do take their time with that. I took my time, but even practicing and praying and things, but say, I won't wear one of them,
Yeah.
But in reality, it's a statement to say that you're proud of being Muslim, and I think that is, I love it personally.
Yeah, I think that is a big thing. I mean, it depends how you want to represent yourself, obviously.
Yeah, exactly.
But for me as well, I mean, we're on the same page with that, where it's like, because you're white, people don't assume you're Muslim, and Muslims don't assume you're Muslim, and I've just come back from Morocco even, and no one over there thought I was Muslim. I was even like, quite obviously a Muslim, and they're just, you're Muslim? They said, where are you from? England? And they'd like look at me like, what? Because people, even in Muslim countries, they honestly, even Turkey was the same. We went to Turkey, they genuinely think Muslims don't exist outside Muslim countries.
It's mad, isn't it, if you think about it? Like, non-Muslims think Islam is not for them, it's for a group of people. Exactly. And even Muslims, unfortunately, think, well, if you Muslim should be X, Y, and Z, and not A, B, and C.
Exactly,
So it's really such one of the biggest misconceptions, but such a minor little, easy point to understand, which is Islam's for everyone. No one's got a birthright to Islam. And as we know, there's people that are born Muslim and don't die Muslim, and there's people that are not born Muslim that die Muslim. I mean, Allah plans, so it's a universal message for everyone. So yeah, brother, anything else you guys want to share with us, inshallah, before we wrap up today? Tell us, where could they find you? Where could people find you as far as your,
well, I mean,
group?
for Hope and Help, so it's www.hopeandhelp.uk. There'll be a little section on the Revert Muslim support program, so that's where you can get the.
We'll get the brothers to add in the description, or maybe in the video itself.
So that's one way you can find us in a Hope and Help. In a Hope and Help setting.
Did the Instagram page as well?
Yes.
Northwest Revert Support, basically. That's what that's called.
We can put that at the bottom as well.
So that's obviously, we've got content on there and stuff. We're going to upload a lot more on that as well. So yeah.
Inshallah. Any last words, brothers? Anything you want to share?
I don't think so. I think the main thing is, obviously, if you're a non-Muslim watching this, there's things for you guys to access. It's not so open doors as people think it is. And if you're a new Muslim, take advantage of the things that have been offered to you, the iERA stuff, the Hope and Help if you're interested. But anything that's getting offered. And one piece of advice, was on about the revert advice for new Muslims and things. Get a scholar that's local to you, who you know's quite reputable, and go off that scholar. One Google search can take you 50 different places. SubhanAllah. And as a revert who doesn't understand difference of opinion and all these different things, it's above your pay grade to start looking into that stuff. So I'd say for advice, get a reputable scholar who's known around the community of being reputable. Stay away from groups, and if people are being a bit excluding others, that's usually a bit of a warning sign. Being a reputable person, take your information from that person, and inshallah everything should be good that way as well.
Anything else, Alice?
No, not really. I mean, I'd just echo that. Really, just keep your views consistent and stuff like that. But yeah.
Brilliant. Jazakallah khair, brothers. May Allah bless you for coming on. I'm sure it's been those that watch this are going to find this beneficial. Brothers and sisters, Jazakallah khair for watching. Make sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Assalamu alaikum.